Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank. So, it's time. We picked something to talk about. It's been overdue, honestly. We need to pick a manga to talk about. Now, for those of you that were watching Comic Run Talk, you already know which one we're talking about. But, I am nothing if not a blowhard. So, let's discuss our process, how we came to this. When it comes to talking about manga, I've been reading it for, oh dear. Oh, wow. A long time. Long time. So roughly about as long as I've been watching anime, probably a bit less, probably maybe three, no, about a year, maybe, no, because we count Pokemon. At least 6 years before I started reading manga, at least give or take. Actually, maybe four, but anyway, that's neither here nor there to discuss how old I am. So when it came to figuring out which one I wanted to read, I sort of had a couple ones in mind. There's something classic like this, one of my personal favorites, one of my all-time favorites. But again, if you know this series, you know this author, and you probably remember the thing that happened. Also, the anime got rebooted, so who knows when we'll really talk about that. I'm not impressed by the reboot. Um, there's this, which is a bit middle ground for me. There's a lot I like, but a lot I don't really like. I'm looking for something with a bit more panache to it, something that really gets the blood going. And visually, that's Demon Slayer. But no, not really anything else. My Hero Academia, close, but no. I always feel like the story gets a bit more convoluted in some areas. I don't know. Hikaru no Go, as much as I'm not a big fan of always going where the wind goes popularity wise, this feels a bit niche. It's good. It's a bit niche. It's actually become one of my favorites overall, if I ever do a list. Your Lie April is a bit too sad and depressing, and some days I don't need that extra depression in my life. And I'm running out of tears. Yeah. That's how I got reincarnated as a slime. I started reading that actually just, what was it? November, I think. This past November. It's alright. Anime is probably better. That's another discussion to have. Like, is sometimes something better in the manga, in its original manga, or is it better in the anime? That can just be how something just plays out differently, or certain things else. Naruto. If you find me on Blogger, you'll find I did a whole review of Naruto, breaking down arc by arc, and yeah, at some point I'll come back to this. I probably would have, but Totally Not Mark did a huge review on it, and yeah, I need some time to get away from that. Melreka 7. Manga's not that great. I might give it another read. I like how Renton just doesn't matter in this cover. That's the only time he's on a cover in that manga. Bleach. Maybe. But, I haven't bothered to watch the Thousand Year Blood War arc yet. Then again, I didn't have Hulu. But now I do, so we'll probably get on that. Full Metal Alchemist, whether it be 2003 or Brotherhood, I know someone who will really, really shake me. Really shake me if I do that one wrong. So, no, I need something that feels a bit less complicated in that aspect. That's more like a which one's better, 03 or Brotherhood. It's like which one's better, Arkham Asylum or Arkham City. It's up in the air. Dragon Ball, simplicity is often strength. Alright? I mean, and that's to Dragon Ball's credit. People like to sort of bash Dragon Ball Z, like, it's too straightforward, it's too simple, it's not a complicated story. Not every story has to be a deep deconstruction. Not every story has to be Death Note. Alright? Alright, yes, I'm intentionally blocking out Light's face. Alright? L is best boy. I'll hear no other arguments on that one. Shaman King? Oof. Shaman King might be a bit too long, which is weird because I also totally didn't disregard Naruto. But I can break Naruto down easier, I think, than I can Shaman King. But that might just be because I've watched and read Naruto again recently. And I haven't really read Shaman King again. I should. It was fun. Yu Yu Hakusho, what some people call the GOAT. Alright, it's a series that has aged pretty well, honestly. I recently read the manga, but at the same time I was reading Shaman King, actually, when I was rereading those. So, there's some fun to be had there. This is another example of how the manga can be improved upon by cutting things out from it when you get to the anime. There's basically a whole arc in the manga that doesn't exist in the anime. Actually, the whole arc in the end of the manga that doesn't exist in the anime. that post Chapter Black stuff, that post Three Kings saga stuff, probably would have helped that series out. Yeah, well. Ooh. You ever find a series where you don't know who the protagonist is? That's Tenjo Tenge. Goblins! Goblins! Yes! Yes! Alright, I was at sort of like a manga low. Then this came out, and I was like, you know what? There's still some good here. Still some good here. Inuyasha. You know how I said sometimes the manga can be improved with the anime? This is the reverse. This is the reverse. The anime didn't really improve the manga at all. As a matter of fact, I think it made the story worse. Ugh. Oh. Look, I barely watched Pokemon. At some point, I was like, you know what? We're getting repetitive here. And I appreciate One Piece. The same thing I like about it, the same thing I just doesn't let me take it seriously. Or at least read it in depth, because arc is pretty much the kind of the same. In other words, at some point, I was like, I can make every arc here a whole season of 2000 anime. From 2000 era anime. Yep. Just do that. Like, he's really trying to make an epic. Like, so when it comes to One Piece, I'll say this. This is what Pokemon should be. Alright? And if someone wants me to explain that at some point, I will. But anyway, I don't have the strength for One Piece just yet. Speaking of Pokemon, outside of Pokemon Adventures, Pokemon should try to be more like One Piece. Or at least should have been. Alright? Pokemon Adventures is, to me, peak Pokemon up till Emerald? Yeah, Emerald. I think by the Diamond and Pearls, like, there's a good attempt here. But, I don't know. By Diamond and Pearl, Black and White, especially X and Y was bad. I just couldn't. There's something to appreciate about X and Y, but really, no. The early Pokemon Adventures are still peak, often like actual Pokemon. Jabba's reincarnation, I like it. I think I like Roxy Gets Serious a bit more, but that's really when she was at the academy, how she'll feel when she graduates. I don't know. But I do like this as much as I like Rise of the Shield Hero. I think I've left my Izakai's great phase, because now it's all starting to, blend together. And it really just depends on which gimmick you're more comfortable with. Jujutsu Kaisen, I think, is better suited as an anime, as I was reading it. I think that's just my perspective on it. There is Death Note is a good example of that, as well as Basilisk, and I don't think there's a manga for Samurai 7. And if I remember, Peacemaker Kurogane, yeah, that was also better as an anime. But then again, Peacemaker Kurogane was never really that good to begin with. Witch Hat Atelier, I hope that's right. I like it. It's like the new generation Magical Do-Re-Mi, except a bit more serious, a bit more dark. Like, this is the direction we go with Magical Girls. Let's do it, but, we're not. Black Clover. People really love Black Clover. I like Black Clover. I used to love Black Clover. The Black Clover sort of kept going. At some point, the series just has to end. And I think the bigger the power scale made, the less... That's just me. Like, the bigger the scale, the more ridiculous it tends to get. And I'm like, yeah, we didn't need that. But that's just me. Blue Exorcist, same thing. At some point with supernatural mangas, they tend to sort of devolve into the same thing, if you think about it. I might be able to prove that going through a bunch of other different manga. But that's a story for another time. Kakaishi is one of my favorite mangas of all time. So... yeah, but even then, as part of supernatural anime, supernatural manga, it does fall into that same trap. And apparently they have 3-in-1s, which I didn't know about. So now I gotta get those. And Samurai Deeper Kyo is sort of... Bleach meets Inuyasha meets Demon Slayer meets... there's probably one more I can throw in there. A dash of Berserk. Evenly spread. Never too much, never enough for you to just automatically know that's Berserk, but just enough to go like, this feels familiar in terms of its tone. At least I think so. But again, I only read one volume of Berserk, so feel free to disregard that. So, the question was, what are we going to review? And then, I thought, well, why not review Peak? See, why not review Yu-Gi-Oh? Yu-Gi-Oh! Excuse me. Let's try this again. There we go. Why not review Yu-Gi-Oh? I mean, as a series, it hits a lot of good notes. It has fun things in common with other mangas, well, particularly other animes at the time. But I think people forget that Yu-Gi-Oh was one of the more successful takes on the trend of what I call childhood absurdity. Particulars of that era, for the most part, all right? Because it's pretty much all the same thing. There's a gimmick that kids shouldn't be, it sounds like kids should do it, but if you think about it, they shouldn't be doing it. Alright? Metabots, Beat-em-on, Beyblade, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! It's all there. Alright? You don't believe me? Okay. So Beyblade, we got a thing. Alright? A bunch of kids take spinning tops, they put monsters in them, and they go at it with each other. Alright? They can destroy the planet. Alright? And we're like, you know what? Let's just have kids play spinning tops. And then even worse, the kids will fight other kids who don't have spirits in their spinning tops. So it's like a horrible ignoring of the weight class issue. It's just really weird. And then the anime keeps going, it gets more absurd. Absurdity is peak Beyblade, alright? Because any other time you watch, like, what do these do? I played actual Beyblade. It's nowhere near this fun, nowhere near this dangerous. Would not recommend it. Except the old guys, they're cool. And again, AJ Topper and Brad Best are peak Beyblade. Nothing else has come close to it. Alright, what next then? Metabots. Metabots, by the people that brought you Digimon, if you remember the previews for that. What made Metabots work, or just stupid, was the fact that these kids get robots, and those robots fight other kids with robots, and also, we're going to try to take over the world. And as funny as it is, you keep wondering, why we let kids have these? They don't need a license, you just have to go to a convenience store to get them. A convenience store to get the murder bots. I'm sorry. Yeah, murder bots. Kilobots are going to be later on in Metabots. So, yeah. There we go. Either way, still fun though, about to be with the old Meta Bebop. So, is what it is with that. But at the same time, pretty fun, pretty absurd, but Metabots at least had a good sense of humor about itself when it came to that. At least in English. Also, apparently had a manga that I still can't find. Alright? Bakugan is weird. Alright, so Bakugan was like, the cards fell from the sky. Alright? And they're like, hey, let's build a community around this game. Alright, because we just read the cards, and then it just sort of escalates into, like, the fate of the world. And I'm like, is this really, like, should we not contact the police or whatnot, the government? No, just let the kids play. Why are the bad guys playing by the same rules? Like, is this like Universal, so do we really make the rules? I don't know. Do I hate it? Do I love it? I'll be honest, I never could pay direct attention to Bakugan, but whatever. It was like a better take on Duel Masters. Alright, and Pokemon, well, we all know Pokemon, don't we? As great as it is, the premise is, okay, so Beedrill is 3 foot, I think, 3'7". Alright, so taller than your average child, taller than Master Yoda, alright, and it will kill you. Everything in the Pokemon world will kill you, alright? And the legit ghost-type Pokemon will kidnap children. It's in the Pokedex entries. There are Pokemon that eat human souls, alright? Our Gyarados destroys towns. What? We send the 10-year-olds to go catch them. You're 10 years old now. Go on. And yes, some series expand on that more like, hey, you know what? You might want to get an actual license. All right, take a test. Prove it. As Ask Ketchum shows you in later series go, you don't need to know nothing to go out there. Can you throw a ball? You can go mess with God. But then Yu-Gi-Oh comes in and amps up the absurdity a bit more. All right? But it's honest about the absurdity. All right? At no point Yu-Gi-Oh sort of embraces the fact that, you know, this is dangerous, you could die, let's just sort of not do this like it's all fun in games, at least till we get to GX, and even then GX goes back on it. But what makes Yu-Gi-Oh work is it sort of embraces that darkness and danger element from the get-go. Alright, even going into Season 0, which doesn't really count, there's this very sort of dark undertone, well, there's a whole occult feel to it, which was the intention And the whole time, through this whole idea of power of friendship, we're stopping people from stealing people's souls and trapping them in video games and all sorts of other mess, and the Shadow Realm and these buzz saws, which when they cut you will send you to the Shadow Realm, or you just lose your legs. It's one or the other. So I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Works with the absurdity because it sort of embraces that danger element to it. And Yu-Gi-Oh!, at least early Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't really have a direct sense of humor about itself for the most part. It's sort of like, yeah, I've killed people. Yeah, Season 0, man. Season 0, how do I deal with bullies? Yeah, I make them lose their mind. But at its core, there's a lot of fun stuff to Yu-Gi-Oh! And as I thought about it more, I was like, we can play around with this. So let's also point out the fact that there's a certain level of absurdity to Yu-Gi-Oh! In itself. Not just what we said, but even just how the game itself is played. Alright? Especially in the original anime. Well, the Duelist Kingdom era anime. Which, to be fair, is pretty much the Duelist era of the manga. Like these things here.
Now, Stone Soldier! Destroy the moon!
First, I activate my Pot of Greed magic card. That lets me draw 5 cards.
Wait, that's illegal.
Screw the rules, I have money.
God bless Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. God bless Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged. But I also thought, like, from a conceptual design, there's something really great about Yugi's character, which I didn't appreciate until I really sort of sat down and read the series again. And realized, I think the reason I like Yu-Gi-Oh! So much was because I saw a lot of myself in Yugi. Pretentious as that sounds. But, like, this image here is just Yugi sitting down, and he's playing a game. And what he really wants is just friends to share his games with. He wants a community. He wants people who will depend on him that he can depend on. All right? People that sort of take an interest in what he likes. All right? And I think that's something admirable, something relatable. I think Kazuki Takahashi was sort of speaking from his own experience. But even more so, going from there, there's a fun discussion about how different the anime is from its original Japanese version. And where sometimes, hey, it's just because we can't advertise to kids in the U.S., which is really weird considering Pokemon. But then again, the Pokemon cards were censored out in the anime too, so whatever. But, you know, look at some improvements. Like, this polymerization is better than this polymerization, and you all know it. Alright, this, better than this. We have improvements from the original manga to the anime as well in just how it's conceptual. From the smaller duel arenas, which felt like very tabletop. Like, everything about Yu-Gi-Oh! At some point, as it elevates, will go to a very tabletop setting, which we'll go over when we talk about it. But then we come to the anime, whereas, like, you know what, we have to up the scale. Like, I get the tabletop approach, but we want to make this intense. So, you know what? Big old table, alright? Alright, big old platforms, monsters coming from holograms, there we go. And then, of course, we have Season 0, where we see essentially the first draft versions of the characters we grow to know and love. Alright? We see the first real duel between Yugi and Kaiba, and how dark that got. Like, honestly, green-haired Kaiba feels like a whole other character. Alright? It's like Ponytail Zuko, except less pathetic. Or maybe more pathetic. It's hard to tell with Ponytail Zuko. But also, at its core, one reason I want to talk about it was because of the death of Kazuki Takahashi. Honestly, it was a big shock to find out, because, in case you didn't know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a pretty big deal. It's a cultural phenomenon at this point. And I myself, I met a lot of great people, had a lot of great memories, spent a lot of money. But I wouldn't trade any of it away for that. I've met a lot of great friends, learned a lot about life. I met people I probably wouldn't have talked to. The tournaments alone were fun. All 3 of them I went to? Yeah. Introvert for life. But there's also been some fun stuff, some fun stories about growing up, about pride, about morality, about putting your heart into something you care about. And Karibo! Yes. That's right. I have 2 sons. Alright, there we are. Fergus and Carson. Alright, there we go. So, when it's time to do the Pokemon one, we're going to call you in, Fergus, alright? This is Carson's time, alright? So you just sit right there, Fergus, alright? And Carson and I All right, we're gonna discuss the Yu-Gi-Ohs. All right, do you guys want Carson here the whole time? Just let me know. All right, he'll fight you. But anyway, when I think about Yu-Gi-Oh, I really do mean it. I really do think about that scene, that moment there. And there's a lot of great story about sort of being the best you can be, and overall, I just really wanted to talk about it, not just because it was a fun idea, and because Kazuki Takahashi died while saving people from drowning, like the Chad he was. But the purpose of this channel really was, and still is, to share things I like with you guys. All right, we'll rant about some things here and there. No, I'll rant a lot actually, but ultimately, I want to talk about things I like, and I like Yu-Gi-Oh! I love Yu-Gi-Oh! All right, I love Yugimoto as a character. I love Dan Green's portrayal. He needs to get more work. Redo Samurai Deeper Kyo. Recast Dan Green as Kyo, Shiro, and Kyo. All right, I promise you, there's one thing you have to keep. It's that. And yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys. I wanted to share the absurd, wonderful, and sometimes insane world of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, how are we going to do this? Well, I think we'll go with a couple stories from each arc and go forward. There's been a couple problems with how anime and manga are sort of reviewed on the YouTube. I'm primarily just remembering Totally Not Marky and Suede and their anime endeavors. And I'm nowhere near as big as they are, so I really cannot afford to deal with that kind of trouble. So anyway, with that in mind, Carson and I will bring this to a close here. If you're new to the Bug Thing, take forward to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out some of my videos, and I'll catch you all later. Well, hopefully, next time you see us, we'll talk about the Shadow Game era. This is the Bug Thing signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well. Hey, Carson, put the hat on. Put the hat on. Oh, look at that. Actually, wow, he looks better with it than I do.